Hey guys, what's going on? So this is Wednesday, midweek. So essentially, it's looking pretty good. We have seen a lot of price movement in the market recently with this impulsive action on the DXY, which we could say was quite expected. We did have like a mini double top, mini triple bottom call up over here. Wasn't the cleanest, wasn't something that I was entitled to look for the long position. However, we did move up aggressively from there. We didn't quite tap into that low. That's what I was looking for. And across the board, there's always these tweaks, but at the end of the day, my plan was to wait for the low and then look for the long, and then it just looks like we've just made our way and started pushing higher. So it is what it is. We could aggressively move up here in no time, so I'll definitely be aware of that throughout this month, where we could see some very good bullish movement towards the high on the DXY. I think with the DXY, we are definitely in a very good value area at the moment. There's definitely the possibility we can still turn around and come back to the low. However, there's also the possibility we have to understand that we can, trickle and make our way all the way up here. We do have a few inflection points along the way, so we do need to be mindful of those as well. But besides that, it's looking pretty positive for the DXY. And then in the longer term perspective, more so, I think, we should be aiming to see how we can capitalize on these sort of movements. So there's definitely going to be a huge amount of opportunity in the market right now. We just need to definitely just keep our eyes on the ball. I think the DXY is shaping up to look very, very, very nice. So all in all, this is basically what I'm looking at. It's a very simple movement. Once we do reach this area, I'll be looking to potentially take it short, and hopefully we do come into this area, we evolve ever so slightly, and then maybe we find a floor in this area here and we push back up. We'll have to wait and see. There'll definitely be some sort of tips in a way that the chart usually gives you on the way down to let you know what type of characteristics to be aware of, but at the moment it's looking pretty positive. So that's basically it. On the watch list, I did take a position on EA. So EA kind of tapped into this sort of value area. Now we know that we were looking for this near miss. On the lower time frames, it's a little bit more serious, so we can see it, but we near enough came there, and then we impulsively pushed away, becoming a little bit more neutral at this point because we haven't had a very aggressive push back up. But if we look at it over here, we can see that we tapped into this point, aggressively started to sell off, and then once again we trickled, made our way up and aggressively pushed. We didn't quite break this, however we did sell off again from here. There's always the possibility that this can turn around and go up. Now as we push down aggressively, we haven't given any sort of solid opportunities on the way down on the 4 hour. On the lower time frames, absolutely there is a few opportunities there, but more so on the 4 hour, this is probably a sign of a very, very good area to be entering the market in my personal opinion. So these are potentially very, very profitable areas to be entering. So on the 4 hour and then on the 1 hour, just for a little bit of refinement, wouldn't drop anywhere lower than this personally. And yeah, essentially we can see that we had this little point over here, we near missed it, which was the gap there, and then we've gravitated back, filled it, and now we're creating that evening star sort of pattern. It was a little bit of a tight and larger stop than I wanted. However, in terms of stock protection, risk reward, everything was there for me, so I was more than happy to take this position. Many times I've seen this play out very well, just an A to B movement to this low, and then potentially from there we could actually bounce back and make our way back up here. So just being mindful of that, also being extra mindful that this sell could actually turn into quite a good trade. It is a good trade in itself. The context is there, the quality of the position is definitely very, very nice, but we have to be aware that it can furthermore develop. This can get a little bit more messy and then become a 1, 2, 3 and then drop off. So understand the possibilities and the probabilities, and then what we're actually looking at is this area, and then we look for the short again. So I understand that this can happen, and if this does happen, and we do come up to here, then I can just take the short position again if needed, if it has to be. However, we have to also understand that take this away, what's more important right now is we've got this sort of area here that's been tested twice. Third time we've correctively approached it, and now we've had a nice rejection away from it, meaning that there's definitely you know, people positioning themselves strategically in this area, and we could be involved in another very good run. What we know with the third touch runs, they're usually quite aggressive and quite profitable. So for that reason, you know, I think personally I'm happy to, oops, did I just put hide forever? Interesting. So yeah, we know they're quite profitable. We just want to be extra on the ball with those. So yeah, I think all in all, I'm just going to wait for this to shape up. Once this shapes up, we'll see how it goes. But in no time, we could see ourselves all the way down here. And, you know, by the end of the week, which would be very, very interesting if we're here by the end of the week, that we might be in a very good area to, obviously for management, be very aggressive in this area. But we have to understand that we'll most likely gravitate to the low here before we even do anything. So would we near miss this? Possibly, because we did have that near miss up there. These things tend to happen. However, we could smash through this. It is looking a little bit like a head and shoulders as well, which is quite interesting. You know, we've got this left shoulder, head, right shoulder. The only negative confluence in my opinion is we didn't break above that inflection point, but you know, there's always this. We've always broken through this. Left shoulder just broke above, head shoulder smashed through it, right shoulder came back down. Is the right shoulder going to meet with the left? That's also another confluence, because when I did look at that and I saw this, then I was like, ah, okay, this looks a little bit more possible then at this point, because then what happens is, rather than, you know, this smashing all the way down here, this goes all the way back up, corrects up here, creates the right shoulder, smashes through, then we have the left head, right shoulder to the downside. So that's why the quality of this position looks a little bit more interesting. However, I don't want to read too much into it, because previously I've not got into trades because of that. And I think that happens to a lot of people as well. So just a key tip there is sometimes keep it very simple, and then if things do change, you know you're well prepared for it. Don't say to yourself, oh, I should have waited for that, I should have done this. At the end of the day, you know, you have to be low risk, but just understand what, if this does push higher, what could be forming, what could be happening. It doesn't all have to technically go all the way up here. It's what we would ideally want. It doesn't have to, it can actually just create that pattern there and then drop off. So that's basically for EA. I'm waiting for the hourly close. Hopefully we close anywhere below my entry. That'll be very nice, and then we can see that continuation to the downside. If we are looking for an entry now, we could potentially be looking for a 15-minute flag in this area here. That would be somewhat valuable. One thing that I would also be aware of is, you know, some sort of final ending structures, but this isn't my typical middle section, so I'm not too concerned right now. But yeah, I just want to make you aware of those things. The next one I'm looking at is New Zealand US dollar. I'll be extremely honest with you, there's nothing really here for me. I'll go to the daily quickly, and it was somewhat off a misposition, didn't quite tap into that high. I was looking to see that with an alert, didn't quite get anything, so left it as it is. We did get that impulsive push away. Is it possible that we gravitate and push back up? Absolutely, and that's kind of more so what I'm looking at now. If we did start creating that larger flag, I would have been inclined for the short. We don't have to come all the way back up here, but it's looking likely at this point. It looks like we've kind of just created some level here, and perhaps maybe something like this, and then we push up, and then we get that push high. But it's not a trade that I'm going to be looking to get involved in. I'll be looking at the short once we do get to these highs, if we do get there, that is. If we do create something larger, that will be something I'll be looking at very closely as well, where we do something like this, and then we can get in for the short, and I'll be looking to position myself somewhere in that area there. So that's basically what I'm looking at right now for New Zealand US dollar. Not really anything exciting for me at the moment. I think it's more time to develop. It could be a late week trade, or it could be early next week, or it may not even be a trade. GBP US dollar, this one is looking very, very nice. So we tapped into the second touch. It was a mistrade for me, unfortunately. So it is what it is. I mean, there was a nice trade in here. It was more so on the hourly where it became a little bit more obvious where the trade would have been here. I would have taken the entry literally right there, put my stop loss above, probably just around about 30 pips, and then to the low, you'd be running roughly around about 2.5. If you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, you could have been tagged out. So I think that's just definitely a lesson in there. You could squeeze it for 28, But I would always give yourself just that little extra room, even if it's 2 pips. Just give yourself that little extra room to breathe. And we're here. So this definitely has very good potential for it to go short. I think in terms of the entry, I don't think we're going to be coming up here anytime soon. Looks like we're going to aggressively push through. However, there's definitely the 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 whatever % on the table there. We've got more than enough for this to sell off now, so I would definitely be sharp for that. If this did come back up here, I'd be a little bit concerned personally. Only reason being is that the flag would be larger than the impulse, and then it would become a little bit more neutral, and it could potentially just gravitate all the way back up. There was this entry which I was more in favorable for. However, I think given the time, I just wasn't sharp enough. I should have been a little bit more sharper, but I wasn't. It would have been a reduced risk entry, and I would have just taken it like that, and it would have just played out really well. So understand the risks that involved. You could even take it a little bit more than it was, and then you would have locked in around about break even at this point when we reached the low. So you'd be running around about 1.5. Once again, abundance of opportunity. You know, we've had a slow week previously, and then a lot of pairs just start shaping up, like I mentioned yesterday. So, you know, GBP USD is definitely one, but if we do start coming back up here, then once again I'll start being a little bit more sharp, but it's more than likely that we're just going to continue trickling our way down now. GBP CAD. So GBP CAD, as mentioned yesterday, you know, it's always quite common that once we create these large patterns, we kind of push down, but it's not the typical sort of flag I'm looking for. I was looking for something a little bit more smaller and tighter with an aggressive push away. It's just now becoming very corrective. Definitely there's some sort of opportunity there, but it's just not one that I'm very inclined to want to take. I'm going to be a little bit more patient with this now because it is a missed trade. The trade that I did want was the trade which was at the top here. We didn't quite get there. We did come to this zone more than enough times. I think that was the entry zone here, and then when we had the push away, it was just a missed trade for me at that point. So like I said, it is what it is. These things happen, but more than enough. Very good trade. If something shapes up, we'll have to wait and see, but for now it's just going to leave it. Just missed it really. The next one is Euro US dollar. Just like the DXY, it's got a lot of aggression to it at the moment. I couldn't really make out a good trade on it because near miss to the low, near miss to the high. Are we gravitating up? Are we gravitating low? I don't know at this point, but I do know that there's an inflection point coming up right here, which we're hovering so close to. I think I'm more inclined to wait to see if it taps into this. So I think for that reason, considering how it's shaping up now, I might just put that on watch for now and just see, because we are having that very nice arc. We didn't quite tap into it, near missed, pushed up, pushed back down, and now we're going to tap into that. If we do retrace and we have a nice push up continuation to the upside, then I might be inclined to look for the upside. If I look at the DXY, we could see something quite similar as well as we were looking for. If we push up, push back in, correct flag to the downside, we could position ourselves very strategic and very well. So that's one I would extremely stay very sharp for, because that is shaping up this morning. So hopefully by the time you see this video, it may still be in that area, or you know, you might have already capitalized on it. Euro Japanese yen, phenomenal. Missed trade for me as well. Did kind of watch it. I was looking at the entry around about here, just opted not to take it for personal reasons, had other things that I was looking at. However, all in all, it's looking pretty good for now. There was a trade down here. I think more so I would have taken it like this when we did have that indecision sort of push, tapped in there, and we would be running roughly around about 2% odd. So would I have been taken out of the position? Most probably myself. I would have moved my management around about here once we started pushing aggressively up, and then possibly I might have been taken out for 1.5 or roughly about a percentage. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, there's small growth, incremental growth, but it's growth along the way. This is making its way up, which is good. This is what we're looking for. We have been looking for that, and across the other yen pairs that we'll be looking at towards the end of the video, we'll also see the same sort of price action. So this is pretty good. I think in the grand scheme of things, of how things are moving, this is exactly what we want to see. It's just now a question of, is this a part of the larger play where we're pushing higher? Because we did have that head and shoulders feel there, but it seems like it hasn't had that full commitment at this point. So I just want to see how this plays out and then basically take it from there. Onto the wildcards, we have EuroCAD. EuroCAD is also a very interesting one. We haven't tapped into the low. There's a near miss to it, and then to the top we didn't break it, but we did tap into it. So as we can see here, we just tapped into it, kind of came for the retest, didn't quite fill that, we didn't have to, and then we pushed off aggressively. This is the sort of continuation area, but because we're sitting on the low, I don't want to position myself for a short at this point anywhere around here. If I was to position myself, I would hope for that near miss, pushes up correctively with structure. We get over here, and we're in this sort of region like this, and then we just sell off from there, and then this just becomes its own sort of larger continuation, impulse, correction, continuation, and that's the way I would see it. So that's the only way I'd be looking to take a position on EuroCAD. I do think it needs a little bit of time to develop. I don't think it'll be ready today, perhaps maybe a tomorrow, or even if we're lucky it could be a, well, no, it'll probably be tomorrow. And then we have Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD also mistrade for me. You know, we had this very, very nice area over here. We actually tested it 3 times before we sold off. 3 times, phenomenal. Well, what we're looking at is, we're looking at it on the higher time frame, where we're seeing this as impulse, correction, continuation. Very, very nice area. I'm just curious now, because there's this class as a first, this could potentially just come as a 1, 2, and this may not be the 3rd touch. This could actually just come up one more time before we sell off. That's what I'm just inclined about, but I think it's very unlikely. It's very possible that we just flag and sell off from here, but we have to wait and see, because sometimes we do come up for a 4th touch. It's not uncommon, but it's not common, so that's one thing I'll be looking at and waiting for. And then going on to the yen pairs, which I think are looking absolutely good. Basically seeing this tap into this area here. This is where I'm looking at it on Prime Watch. I'm not too concerned about the 1, 2, 3. The structure would be phenomenal if it did play, but I'm looking to see if price can just push up, push back in, create continuation and go to the downside. Then I'll be looking to position myself strategically. However, when I do look at the other yen pairs, Euro yen and USD yen, they do have quite a lot of up movement in them, which makes me inclined to think this could actually push up quite aggressively, tap into that 3rd touch before we get the sell. So it's definitely one where I will be waiting for the extra confirmation, hence not just candlestick pattern, but I'll also be looking for a push and a flag personally. But that's basically it for CAD yen, and then we can basically see on USD yen that we are coming in with that near miss, and now we're aggressively moving to that area. How do we fill this? Do we fill it over here? Do we push up a little bit further, tap into the next inflection point and then sell off? We have to wait and see, but this works in line with the DXY, you know, the push up, the push down, if it does play like that. We have to also understand that there is the possibility that this does turn around and aggressively starts pushing up on all 3 pairs. There's always that possibility, so we shouldn't be inclined to just look at the short. We should also understand that these can still aggressively start making their way back up. So that's also something that I would also be aware of, you know, understand the possible and the probable. You know, on all of these pairs, we have to understand that there is a structure forming behind the picture. So I'm very, very happy with what we're seeing right now across the board with these pairs. I think with USD yen is my favorite one. CAD yen as well, actually. Obviously CAD yen is definitely a favorite right now. I think USD yen though, structurally it's on point. Euro yen as well. I think CAD yen, because it has the ending structure, I like it a lot more, but USD yen structurally on the higher time frame, it looks good. In Euro yen, I think kind of falls 3rd, but at the same time, it's a bit of a messier one in my opinion. But yeah, so more favorable in CAD yen and USD yen. Let's just wait and see how these guys play out. So on Prime Watch today, we've got obviously the one I've already taken a trade on, which we're just waiting to kind of play through, is Euro Aussie. So keeping it very simple, push down, continuation to the downside. CAD yen, hopefully we're looking for either a 1, 2, 3, push up, push down on the flag, or Euro USD, where we see it tap in, which we're very, very close to. We're actually sitting on it now, where we just tap into this. But looking at the DXY, the USD yen, and so forth, it's more than likely we see an aggressive push away before we come back in. So this would be a push up and a flag situation as well. And then obviously on USD yen, I'm looking for it to tap into this override zone where we've had the near misses, do its thing, push up, push back down, flag. If we create head and shoulders, it is what it is. But hopefully by this Friday, we may already be in the trade or be gearing up for the trade. So that's basically it for my watch list and wildcards for this week. If you guys have any questions, anything you'd like to ask me, don't feel afraid to not drop me a question, DM. Be more than happy to get back to you. And yeah, that's basically it. So if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you with any of those questions. So have a great week, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.